Hello, everybody. This is Andy Lopez, and you're listening to Don't Panic, It's Organic. First thing I'm going to do is have a shared computer sound right there. Yeah, I got it. So on today's show, I am being interviewed. It's a 2-hour show, so I had to cut it in half. Sorry. If you want to hear the whole thing, it's available on my YouTube page. Best way to get to my YouTube page is to go to my website at the bottom of the page. It'll say YouTube. Takes you right to my YouTube page. While you're there, you should subscribe and click on the notification button. Okay, so enjoy the show, and I'm just going to push this starter button here. I think I got it.
And let me introduce you to a longtime friend of mine, Andy Lopez, the Invisible Gardener. Andy, are you there?
I think so.
Oh, yes, you are. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Andy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been so great because we have kind of like lost touch for a while. And I actually came across some of his music online. And we're going to be listening to a bit of it a little later. And Andy started gardening. Now, you must have been a young kid here, Andy, 1956.
1956, I think I was in the sixth grade. I don't remember how old I was, but yeah, my mother was a what you call a master gardener. She just taught me everything. I got 4 brothers, right? So everybody's football, baseball, not me. I'm out there planting roses, doing gardening. So yeah, I started really early. Well, let's look at it this way. I went in the service when I was 17, and that was 1960. 67, 66, something like that. I forget now.
Well, I was married to a gardener for a while. We weren't really connected back then, but I know he learned because his grandfather used to take him out in the garden. And
yeah.
he developed his love of gardening that way. So what is it, before we get into some of the nuts and bolts, because you are the invisible gardener. As long as I've known you, which is over 30 years, that's who you have been. And I know you've been a natural arborist, an organic expert and consultant. You have 4 of your own talk shows, which is amazing. You're a writer. You write your own music, which has healing tones in it, inner gardening music, which I love. And you're also a lecturer. You've written 21 books, and your latest book just came out, and it's called Don't Panic, It's Organic, which I know is
the number 22.
So, all right, so this is the number 22. Got it. Well, I know that's a slogan you've used ever since I know you.
I own the copyright to it.
There you go.
I would have been a millionaire if I gotten into the T-shirt business.
Right. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
Really. Right.
I got another book, by the way, I'm writing. It's called Energetic Healing.
Oh, okay. Wow. You are a man of many, many exceptional talents. I know. One of the things for the show, I remembered that you did a past life reading for me back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And
I still have the chart too.
Yes. And I dug through my files and found it. And it was like astounding. Handwritten pages and pages of specific information. And this one was dealing with like 26. Well, you didn't do details.
You were busy.
Yeah, 26 most important past lives. So that was an interesting, and I don't think back at that time, I really understood as much as I do today. And so I'm looking forward at some point exploring that world.
Let me tell you something interesting. We didn't cover that you're going to ask me, but you want to know how I got the name Invisible Gardener?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you were talking about the energies, the cycles of the sun and the moon, right?
Yes.
That is invisible gardening right there. The energies that makes things grow, that makes things die, that makes things grow, that makes things die, that is invisible gardening. And as a kid, I knew, see, you asked me, about, if I knew anything about the moon cycles. I knew about the moon cycles before I could read. Okay, before I could read, because I knew things. So you can see the cycle of everything, the way the earth breathes and the energy comes and goes, the energy changes. That's the invisible gardening, and that's how. And so in 1970, when I got out of the service, before that, I started my gardening in the 6th grade. You know, I didn't have any name, Invisible Gardeners. When I got out of the service, I went to University of Florida, and I went to the day. And at night, the best time to do your gardening is under the light of the moon at night.
Wow.
And you see the cycle, you see everything. And so I would do the gardening at night. And people, one lady says, my husband says, I want you to do a garden for me. I said, fine. Well, I have to do it at midnight and then do it at a certain time. Because I was reading the Old Farmer's Almanac in those days to make sure. Because I would say, gee, this feels right. Then the Old Farmer's Almanac say, at this time it's when you plant. And I go, yeah.
Wow.
And after a while, you don't have to look at the Old Farmer's Almanac because you know it's
That's amazing.
And the lady woke up one morning and there was a garden there, and she said, "Oh, the invisible gardener must have been here," and the name stuck ever since.
Wow, that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And it makes sense. I mean, you know, we were talking just before we called you on that about new moon wishes and the powerful times of the new moon.
Yeah.
And we're so like caught up in electricity and lights and TV and computers and cars and all of this stuff that we, as a rule,
Out of touch.
We're totally lost touch. Totally.
You want to know what I'm doing tonight?
What are you doing tonight?
One of the things I'm also an ordained minister. I became an ordained minister in 1970 for the Universal Brotherhood.
Okay.
Yeah, I started a church called Astra's Garden. Astra is my real name. You probably know that, right? Didn't I tell you that before? We must have known for so long. I must have told you at one time or another. I started a church called Astra's Garden in Gainesville, Florida. And then I started a school called the Living Institute of Survival Technology, which in turn did the Invisible Gardener.
Got it.
What I'm doing tonight is I am transmitting light around the world at that time. My wish, what I want is to bring light to the world, not just a pure white light that everybody can take out, that frequency, that energy that they want. That's what white light is. It's a blend of all the lights. It's like here's a medicine, take the medicine you want from it. Take what you need for that, because everybody uses light differently. We need to teach people how to use the light, because we've gotten so out of touch. I mean, for me, gardening is a sacred thing, you know, because I feel like I give energy, it gives me energy back. Amazing. Right. You know? And by the way, I could talk for hours, so you have to just, guide me and control me and,
I understand. So, well, one of the things I was going to ask you was really, before we got into nuts and bolts of gardening, is to look at what about gardening makes your heart sing, but it just seems like that's who you are. I mean, you were born to be a gardener.
Well, I call myself, I'm a gardener of beings. I don't just garden in trees and plants. I garden with people. That's why I became an ordained minister. I plant a seed inside of you. And a lot of times when when I met you, you already had a beautiful seed growing. I said, wow, cool, nice flower, right? But there are people who have nothing there. And I go, wait a minute. You need something growing inside that connects you with the outside, and that's an ordained. As you know, you're an ordained minister. What do you think you do when you see people and you deal with them and you give them your readings, your energy? Yeah, you're planting your seed in there that they want, and then you're teaching them how to water it, how to feed it, how to even know it's growing. You know, gardening means attention. It means consciousness. You have to pay attention to that plant, and that plant's saying, "Hello, I'm over here. Hello, hello," right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I like to do what I do in terms of like orienting people to their chart, who they are, like in a bigger, beyond the third dimensional reality. Because
I'm Aries rising, by the way.
Yes. And I've got there you go. All right. So what a perfect time to have you on the show.
Yeah.
Right.
It's no coincidence. There's no coincidence.
There are no coincidences. It was interesting with the show because I got the sense that all of a sudden you came into my mind. I thought, and that's the perfect time to have you. Tonight was the night. I'm so glad you were available because I thought it's springtime. It's a time of gardening. And it came through me. You kind of came through me through somehow one of your musical pieces landed up. I don't know if it was on Facebook or where it was, but I opened it up and I thought, oh, and it had frequencies in it. And I thought, this is great. And, you know, one thing led to another, and tonight was the perfect time. And I didn't realize at the time that it was a new moon or anything. So there are no accidents. We know that. So and I want to thank you for your book. I've been looking through it. I haven't had a lot of time to read it, but just some of the things in here, they're just so beautiful. And one of the, yes, it's, you know, I noticed here, and some of the things that just jumped out at me was that when people raise their beds in the garden, that you can grow 4 to 7 times more food in the same area and use 75% less water. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you need, on top of that, that's the wave of the future. I mean, you talk about climate change, you had better learn to grow your food under the weirdest conditions. That you have to grow them in the greenhouse in raised beds. No longer, I mean, growing in the ground, it's really not such a good idea. And I can eventually explain that to you in the long run.
Okay, maybe we'll get into that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. But that was, you know, I just kind of like looking through here, and then just on the following page, I loved your little pull-out quote here. Allow the many creatures of your garden to come together and sing their songs. Yeah. Promote balance both within yourself and within your garden. Make the garden a place of life and not death. May your garden flourish and may you flourish. Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful.
The music, I have to tell you the truth, the inner gardening music is not for people, it's for the garden, it's for the flowers and for the plants. That's what it's for. They harmonize with that. Insects, plants, flowers, all function on frequencies and energy. They evolve to know when something's vibrating at a certain pace, you see. And whenever they're stressed, that's where you're going to get the problems. And so this is really meant for the garden. I tell people, put it out in the garden, play. You're not going to have any bugs or diseases. Everybody be so happy.
Yeah. I love it. So So on that note, you said that your next book that you're writing is about energetic medicine.
It's called Energetic Healing.
Energetic healing, and so so that's also relative to the garden and like frequencies, using frequencies, the frequencies of your music, and all.
Right. People think that it's energetic healing for people. In the beginning of the book, it says this is energetic healing for the garden, for the trees, for the flower. You know what the most advanced consciousness in the planet is?
I do not.
It's called mycelium. You know what mycelium is? It lives. It's in the soil. You know what the topsoil? Right. The topsoil is the skin of Gaia, of Mother Earth. That's our skin. That's her skin. Mm-hmm. See? And mycelium has been evolved like 250 million years before human beings. I mean, all living things evolved from the mycelium. Okay, and that mycelium is a being that lives in the soil. It's one giant massive being that's connecting everything together in the soil. And guess what humans do? What? They destroy the soil. They destroy the topsoil. People think that cars is a problem of produces carbon dioxide, the main cause of climate change. It's not that. It's the farmers who are rototilling the topsoil. Topsoil holds the carbon in. And when you destroy the topsoil, you're doing a bunch of very bad things. It's like setting your skin on fire, for starters, right? I mean, we absorb. You think that we listen to energy through our ears? I mean, through sound and stuff through our ears? No, we listen through the whole body. The skin is a major organ of light and sound. It's the same thing with the earth. So when we dig up, we're destroying the mycelium and the microbes that live in the soil. We're releasing the carbon dioxide, and we can't hold it anymore. Over 40% of the problem is from our farming methods. Sorry, I keep doing stuff.
No, please. I appreciate that. And I know that there's more and more of an awareness that is happening in the world of soil. That it seems to be a rebirth, if you will. I'm not sure if you know, John.
You know exactly what's happening is the Piscean age. We're coming into the Aquarian age. We're overlapping right now, and the consciousness is rising very, very fast. And the faster the consciousness rises, the more people are going to be yelling, "Wait a minute! I'm not ready. I don't want to go." The poor fishes in the water had better learn to be fishes in the air.
Right.
Sorry, I keep throwing stuff in there. Sorry.
That's okay. So the mycelium is so
Yeah.
it's one organism around the whole. I mean,
Yeah.
it talks to it. How does it work? How does it communicate? How does it?
When you look at you go to for example on the let's see, what is it, the Science Channel, or where they show space and they show the pictures of the different galaxies and stuff. You see how they have a pattern. You'll see that some of them have this web-like pattern. Okay, that's the exact replica of our brain and the exact replica of the mycelium. The mycelium is like the internet for the soil. And I think of soil and soul, S-O-U-L, as the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
In the mycelium, there's several different, I'm not the only one that thinks this, because more and more, there's a book called Mycelium Running. It's how mushrooms can save the world. And there's another book on about how trees communicate. They're all saying the same thing. I love it. I said, it's great. And that's what it is. The mycelium is a living being that actually is the beginning of the food chain and the end of the food chain. We're not the apex. Mycelium, we die, guess what eats us? And mycelium is very smart. It's the best farmer in the world. It's farming us. It's farming trees. It's farming plants. It feeds them, makes them really healthy. And when they die, guess what? They get the best food. The mycelium eats that. That's perfect. That's what mycelium does, One of the things it does is it breaks trace minerals down, makes it available, and it actually feeds anybody that's connected to. When roots of the tree goes into the ground, guess what wraps around? Guess what it's connected to, right? You figured it out. I saw your little brain thinking, go, oh, mycelium, right?
So let me ask you this about, you mentioned mushrooms.
Yeah.
Now, what is the relationship of mushrooms and mycelium?
The mushrooms need the mycelium to grow. As they have evolved over centuries, many different types of mushrooms. Most people think of psychedelic mushrooms, which is fine, but there's also, edible mushrooms and all kinds of poisonous mushrooms, And mushrooms need the mycelium to grow because they have evolved. They say, this is a good relationship. My mycelium will give me all the minerals and everything I need. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to look for mycelium and grow there. If it's not there, I ain't growing. And that gives you I get calls all the time. I got mushrooms growing on my lawn or mushrooms in the forest. I said, great, the soil's alive, leave them alone. And so the mycelium breaks down, it protects you, it keeps you from getting disease and pests, not by you. Indirectly, yes, because, it's all about trace minerals, right?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I do another show called Cosmic Gardening, because I've been giving talks longer than I've met you. I've been giving talks, in the 6th grade. I put me in front of an audience, I start talking.
I love it.
Just like somebody you and I know, right?
Yes, there you go.
And so it's what was I talking about?
The mycelium, the trace minerals.
Yeah, trace minerals. When I talk about cosmic gardening, I tell people, do you know what a cosmic ray is? A cosmic ray will shoot through the Earth in a nanosecond. That's 1/1000th of a second. In the Earth, out the other side. 1/1000th of a second. Right? Wow, yeah.
Right. That's interesting.
And we're being constantly bombarded. So we are born into this environment of being shot through by cosmic rays. And there are a bunch of different things happen, but the main thing that happens is the trace minerals absorbs those energy of the cosmic rays. So the different types of cosmic rays have different frequencies. Iron will absorb certain things, gold, different metals, trace metals. And that's the reason why we want to eat, in my opinion, we eat the trace minerals, other than the fact we need it for metabolism and creating energy and doing all this stuff. We get these frequencies from them.
Wow. So now vitamins. Do vitamins don't often include trace minerals?
Right. Vitamins are man-made.
Right.
I love that word, man-made. Okay, because we have decided to bypass certain things and put them in. So unless the vitamins come from a natural source, which have the trace minerals, the vitamins would be fairly useless. Okay,
right.
It's the same thing with a gardening world. Chemical fertilizers are fairly useless because they do not come from a natural source. They do not have the frequency and the energy that the plants need. It's like eating, high fructose sugar, which is not even now they have super duper. You will die if you eat this sugar.
Right.
Go ahead.
I noticed in your book that you have never used chemicals. That I know you mentioned that most people start with chemicals and then they go
switch over,
to
yeah.
organic. But that was not the case for you.
No. See, my mother's from Puerto Rico, my dad's from Cuba. So every summertime, in order for me to survive, because I lived in New York, I would be part of the gangs. The gangs would come to me and say, "You're a Puerto Rican, you need to be on the Puerto Rican gang," and the Cubans could come over, "You're a Cuban, you need to be on the Cuban," and the Americans, "You're a." So I would fight them all. I said, "Come on, everybody! I'm not." My mom said, "This kid's going to survive." So they sent me to Cuba, and I would go to Puerto Rico. And of course, they didn't use fertilizer. You can't go to the store and buy fertilizers in those places at that time. So yeah, they taught me how to use animal manure. They made a giant pile of compost. I mean, the whole thing was really, really absolutely cool. I learned a lot, about compost, about energy. My great grandmother. This is something we have another show called The Body in the Garden. We talk about we have a doctor who says there's the similarities are absolutely amazing in the stomach. It's called biodome. The microbes in the stomach are the same ones in the soil. Duh. Anyway, my great-grandmother used to say, when you pick a carrot, don't wash it. Eat it with the soil because you're going to get the microbes, but you're going to get what you need into your stomach. And that's true. Anyway, what were we talking about? What do you want to talk about? I'm here. I'm here for you, baby.
You are. Well, it's great. You have so much to share. I just love it. So, now, let's stick with the mycelium for a while here. Now, how are they working with trees? How do trees communicate? Through mycelium?
So remember, everything evolved from the mycelium, okay? Everything evolved. So the trees have roots, right? Where do you think the roots learned to, they evolved from it? They started, the mycelium was there first. Then this little thing started to evolve and said, okay, I'm going to use you, mommy. They call it mycelium mother. That's Gaia. That's the real Gaia. That's the Mother Earth we've always been talking about. We always know there's a consciousness there. Just haven't been able to pinpoint exactly what. Is that rock? Is it that tree? Is it? No, it's right underneath your feet. So as you evolve, you say, this is good for me, so I'm going to learn to have a relationship with this thing that the trees, the root system actually. The mycelium looks for the roots of the trees, and they wrap. If you were to take a slice of the earth sideways, you'll see that the roots are intertwined with the mycelium, and all the trees, the roots are intertwined together. People saying, well, the roots are intertwined, so of course they're going to talk. But a mycelium, a tree is like 10 miles away, wrapped around the mycelium, will get. And if the mycelium, another tree 10 miles away can communicate with each other through the mycelium, okay? So theoretically, you can anywhere in the world, the plants talk together, the trees talk to each other, and then the insects have evolved because they say, look, insects, they're keyed into stress. So when a tree or a plant or you or I, anything grows and we're stressed out, we're not getting our minerals, and the bugs say, bingo, food. Because they're not going to eat something, and it's a reason that they evolved. It's really interesting because, see, the way insects have evolved. Do you know what Brixs reading is? Brixs, B-R-I-X?
No, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about that, but if you'd like to bring that in now, that's okay time.
Right, so when you go shopping, I know when I went with my mother, she would take something and bite it, and the guy said, well, you should have bought it. And she says, oh, it's not sweet enough, right?
Okay.
Or sometimes people would take a little dowsing rod or whatever way they would try to figure out if the food is right for them, right?
Yeah, I do a little muscle testing with my fingers. Yes.
Exactly right. Muscle testing. I remember doing that. So anyway, this guy is a scientist, Abe, A-B-B-E. I've forgotten his last name, but it's not refractometer. He was a scientist, and he would go out and he would say, how can I figure out this food is good before, so he invented a refractometer, and refractometer is used now to measure the level of sugar, and they use it for beer and wine, right? Mm-hmm. And foods. You can actually measure the sugar level in fruit, for example, or in vegetables. So he invented a refractometer. He would go up to this place, and the guy says, may I have a slice of that tomato? Put a drop in the refractometer, look through the light. Oh, wonderful reading. I'll take 20, whatever, right?
Oh, great.
So I read about that because I'm a natural dowser. I can find gold, water on. People send me maps and I'll show them where the river's running underneath. But the thing is that when you what was I talking about? You have to
The
What?
refractometer, levels of sugar.
Right. So
You'll keep me on my toes, I can see.
right. So the refractometer, I read about this because I was giving talks already. So of course people send me stuff. I read, oh, cool, this is a way to measure the Brixs level. And so I would say, okay, I got a refractometer. Basically, you take a fruit or whatever, you squeeze a drop on it, and it would tell you a Brixs reading. What's interesting, what I have developed over the years, see, is that because the same, Brixs reading is a measurement of sugar in a plant, but it's also the measurement of the minerals in the plant too.
Oh.
Minerals. It's a device you can tell if that plant has its mineral, because the greater the mineral levels, the higher the Brixs level. The higher the Brixs level, the less the pests and diseases.
Got it.
And I've been telling that for centuries. I went to the place over in Ventura, the horticultural center, right? I said, you guys know about Brixs? No. You guys, you're spending $40,000 to study compost. Oh, gee whiz. And and they don't understand that. See, we're reactive. We see a bug, we're going to go kill it, right?
Right.
But I see a bug and I go, oh, good for you, bug. You're doing your job. And whatever that the bug is attacking tells me that's food for the bug. So it's time. That means you weren't doing what you're supposed to do if you didn't want it to be food for the bug. See what I'm saying? Right?
Right. So let me ask you a question here. So the Brixs is the measurement, and the refractometer is the instrument to do that.
Right.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
And is that something that the average person would use?
Easily. Look, I have 3 refractometers. I have one that's $10,000. I have one that's $300 and one that's $25. The $10,000 one was given to me by Leica, the company that makes it, because I was talking about that since the 6th grade. I kept saying, I don't have one. I read about it, but I don't have one. And the guy sent me, it says $10,000. I say, holy cow, $10,000 refractometer. But the $25 refractometer gives me the same reading, because you buy on eBay, you type refractometer, you see beer and wine shows up. Just pick one that has a reasonable range, because some will go up to thousands. You want it in the 30s. You want something that'll say like 32, 34. Because remember, you're just dealing with plants. You're not dealing with wine and sugar, beer. You want the plant. And I learned that you can measure the leaves and the flowers. So I do grasses. When I was the president of Rose Society, I tested the buds of the roses. You learn after a while what the level is you're looking for in trees and so forth. I wish I could do that with people, but that's another story. That's
that's a whole other story. Yes.
Right.
So
that's
now, when you're saying, so when you're saying 32, what is the range? I don't understand. What is that?
In a refractometer, you'll see numbers that start from 1 to about 38. And there'll be little lines, like a line going up, and then like a ladder, right? Like
a thermometer or something?
Yeah, exactly right. So when you put a drop of something in there and you look through it in a light, you'll see a dark and a white area. On top will be white and the bottom will be dark. That line where they meet, right? The line where they meet, you see where that number is. So if it's number 10, that's the Brixs level of the plant. And something interesting too, it's called blurry line rule. I didn't make this up. But the line where they meet, the more blurrier it is, the more minerals, the more combination of minerals you have. The sharper it is, it means it's tuning into one mineral. Scientists can look at a star and by the color of it tell you what's the mineral. So that's what a refractometer does, see?
So where would that...
Okay, breathe it. That's it.
Yeah. So what would someone who is, everybody wants to have the sweetest fruits and all of that. And so where would they find, does it come with the instructions on the sweetness of something, or do they have to get another book in addition to that? Is that something
they don't come with any information whatsoever. You have to figure it out yourself. But listen, you can go on my website. I have a free ebook that was written by one of the top scientists in the field. He says, give it away. So I'm giving away. It has a chart on it, tells you what carrots, what lettuce, what tomatoes, what they should be. The level that they should be. After a while, it's just like with, I used to read the moon sign book. What was the name of it? I forgot it already. I'm on another planet already.
Right.
The one that the Farmer's Almanac. I used to read the Farmer's Almanac all the time, but now I stopped reading because I say it's the time to do this. Don't ask me what sign it's in, but the time to do it. And you have to plant the right thing at the right time. That's what it comes to. Same thing with your consciousness. The same thing with creativity. When you want to create, it's not a good time to light a match and when it's windy, right?
No, right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm gonna just pause you for a second here and bring you back to this thing about simple carbohydrates versus complex carbohydrates and Brixs, the refractor meter. You want to talk a little bit about that? What's that?
So what happens is that carbohydrates is the main source of food for insects. Makes sense. When the tree is sick, it produces simple carbohydrates. Or when it's stressed out, then it becomes food for the bug. That's how the bugs have learned to key into what's. So it's like if, see a bug, let me back up real fast. See, I can see color and hear, I can see sound and hear color. So bugs do that too. So when a bug looks at a plant, it gives off a certain color. And if it's stressed out, it'll be a certain color. See, so the bug goes bingo, and it'll eat that. So what makes it, so it's important, what happens is that if you give chemical fertilizer, you see how fast they grow, right? They go really fast, but they're weak in a lot of ways, and they also produce simple carbohydrates. That means the plant does not have the trace minerals it needs. High nitrogen makes things go really, 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 really fast. It's like you eat sugar, you get really stressed out, and it inhibits the absorption of minerals. Whereas that's one reason why we do things organically, because hopefully everything you do organically is rich in the minerals, all combination of minerals. I talk a lot about rock dust, about how to get the minerals, right? And so if you have the minerals, you have a high Brix level, really, really high, it'll be complex carbohydrates, and guess what? The bugs don't like that. They cannot process complex carbohydrates, so they're going to leave it alone.
Well, it's just so much, and it's so relative to people. Simple carbohydrates, sugar, it makes you sick. Complex carbohydrates keep you healthy. We really are talking about the same thing here.
Exactly. Before we in the same place. Yeah.
I'm finding this so interesting, and that you have, I went to your website, Andy, and there's just so much on there.
Too much in it.
You were such a powerhouse of information.
Too much. Back up.
Never too much, but I know it can get a little overwhelming sometimes. So I'm happy to try keep you on track here a bit, but and the free ebook for the Brixs minerals.
Yeah, it's out there. You can go there and it says free books, and you'll get it.
I love it. So one of the things I have here is dense foods. What's that all about? What is it, dense?
Well, I didn't come up with the word terminology dense. Some clever person, that good at words, dense food, and it basically means it's got the trace minerals in it.
Okay, so trace minerals are, and I'm really, this is a good wake-up call for me, because I know there was a period in my life where I heard a lot about trace minerals, and I was very much focused on them, but I haven't really been in a while. And I just from this brief conversation we've had so far, I can see that, wow, we need trace minerals. That's what we want, right?
Here's the thing, okay, and it's identical in the plant world. Trace minerals will do you no good if you cannot process. You can't eat trace minerals. Our bodies cannot eat it. Just like the trees cannot eat trace minerals. There has to be something in between eating it. So I tell people that microbes eat, the poo-poo of the microbe is what we eat. And that's very important. So that in the show, The Body in the Garden, we talk about the biodome, the microbes in your body. If you do not have the microbes in that stomach to process the trace minerals, it'll go in and go out, because you will not be able to absorb it. You see what I'm saying? So you have to have your soil in your stomach really working right, just like the soil in the garden working. So in the garden they have mycelium. In the body you don't have mycelium. You have something else in there. See? That takes the minerals, breaks it down. That's why you don't actually eat the minerals. You need to eat something else that ate the minerals, that ate the minerals, ate the minerals, that ate the minerals. You see what I'm saying? And it starts right here at the mycelium. They eat the minerals, and something else eats that, and something else eats that, something else eats that, something. By the time it gets to you, it's in a form. That's why they want the dense food. That's why they get the plant, they eat it. The plant already broke it down. They got it from the mycelium. Hey, this is good stuff. Pass it on. The plant eats it, changes it into the plant itself, the body of the plant, right? And you eat it.
Right. So for us, then, the best way to get trace minerals is to eat healthy foods and vegetables?
You got it. You got it. That's why that's the real reason why we started gardening. I don't trust anybody. I'll plant something, I put everything in it, and I know it's there, and I'll eat it. But when I go to the store, I'm going, holy cow! Look, this food is like blank. It has no energy to it. That means no meaning, no nothing. Even they're being sold as organic. I'm going. So it doesn't even mean if they grew it organic, because they probably don't know. I asked them, I went to one place and I said, so it's organic? Yes. We use rock dust? No. Then where are you getting the minerals from? Oh, it's already in the soil. Really? You ever hear soil depletion? It's like, holy cow. Yeah.
Cool. Wow. Well,
Okay,
great.
this would be a good time, Shima. All right.
Okay.
The biologicals. All right, I'm learning about the biologicals in the soil, and it seems like this is what he's talking about. And I now when I look at garden soil, I look for biologicals, things that are living, and it seems like the really good stuff will have a breakdown of the various bacterias and phylums or xylems or whatever that, and I'm sure must be what you're talking about here. So, but one of the questions I had was, when I look at the sources where they get a lot of these biologicals that they put back into the soil, a lot of it seems to be coming from the ocean. And it's a little weird because some of the stuff I've seen, it almost looks like salt. And I'm thinking, and it was derived from the ocean, yet it has all these trace elements and biologicals in it. And I'm like, all right, how does that work out? And what do you have to say about that? And does that make any sense at all?
Listen, normally I would say, yeah, the things from the ocean are very good, but now things from the ocean is more toxins than good. There's micro beads, tiny little bits of plastic, radiation, you name it, it's coming out of the ocean, but that's where we normally would get a lot of our trace minerals from. They actually have some good sources, but way off in hidden parts of the world that they were getting the salt out with has the trace minerals. But because, if you look way back ago, the animals, normally the soil gets the trace minerals from the manure that the animals drop. And the animals will roam all over the country, eating one thing over here and bringing the trace minerals back over there, transferring. It's called remineralization. The planet normally goes through a remineralization. That's why you have an ice age. It grinds the rocks down to minerals, and that takes a long time. And we have disrupted that whole setup. And things from the ocean, in my old day, when I used to live, in Florida, I used to go down the Keys, and the hotels there would be raking up the seaweed, and I said, I'll take those, and shake them off. And even the salt from it I would use, because the salt's really rich in trace minerals. Now I can't even go anywhere near the ocean because it's like more toxins coming out of everywhere than there are good. But normally that would be a good source, but you get them from animal manure. You want to get the bacteria and so forth from various different places. I started growing my own, like yogurt. You just have to grow your own and learn how to make it yourself, because it's very difficult.
I grow a soup. I make a soup. They call it tea. Yeah. And I keep air. I have an air stone in there.
Yeah, exactly right. Right.
And it forms like these spores that come to the surface, kind of white-looking things. Yeah. What the hell? What is that stuff?
That's the mycelium. That's if you look at it on a microscope, it's like a web. It'll be like a web, and there are many different types of myceliums, and they'll do different. They have different tasks. Some only live at the root hairs of the trees. Some are the ones that break down the carbon and put it back into the soil. They break down the minerals, and in the process they take carbon and they use that as energy, but then they put the carbon in the soil.
I really wanted to talk to you about carbon and photosynthesis, but maybe we can do that after the break.
Whenever, sure.
All right.
You should be on the air. I don't
Shima,
talk on the air.
I'll just say real quick, Shima, the reason why is because CO2 has a rod shape. It's just two items, whereas water, H2O, has a V shape. So there's something between the V and the rod. There's that interaction that went in the photosynthesis. And I think that's really fascinating, and I think there's a big lesson to be learned there.
Yeah.
Wow, it looks like this is the perfect conversation with you guys. That's great. Great. Okay.
We could go ahead and start your song if you want to tell.
Okay. Well, all right. So we're going to be pausing a little bit at the top of the hour, and before we do, we're going to share some of Andy's music, because It's, as he said, it's the frequencies in it. Maybe put your plant by the computer and let them listen in and see how that is. So
Right. Just
you
close
can
your eyes and
download,
listen.
right? You
Close
can
your eyes,
download this
listen to
on
your
the
skin.
great, and you can download this. People can download it, right, on your website.
Oh yeah, yeah. Either on the website, SoundCloud. There's lots and lots of places they're available. A lot of them are free, and of course, I'm trying to sell them. But I love giving the stuff away because it's healing. You know, and healing, you shouldn't charge for healing. It should always be free. Chakra tuning.
Okay, love it.
You know what the chakras are, right? There's 108 chakras in your body.
Well, why don't you know, we touched on chakras last week, and I had with Peter, and I know a lot of people don't know what a chakra is, and so why don't you just touch on that?
Energy centers. It all comes down to energy, how the energy travels in your body, how the energy travels in the universe. You know, how the energy goes between one part of your mind to another part of your brain. You know, they're called energy centers. They basically work. Energy comes in. It circulates, and when they reach a certain frequency, a certain energy level, they go up to the next chakra. And each chakra relates to different parts and different things that goes on in your body, your mind, your soul, everything like that, see? And so I say there's 108 because most people only know about the 7 or even the 8 one, but there are 108. They're smaller, and there's a whole bunch of them all around your body, in your aura, in your electromagnetic field, the whole setup. And it's really, so this frequency, the whole body listens to it. It's not your brain or your consciousness that listens to it, but your body's going, and it goes right into your energies. Your energy travels from, it's not connected. It has points, synapses that makes them jump. They jump from one to the other. There's not like a connected wire all the way across. They have these points with a gap in between, and they jump. The energy goes from between one to the other one. It's really cool. So synapses that go across. It's like in your brain, in your eyes, everything is. And then if you look at the mycelium, it does the same thing because we evolved from that, and we learn to use what's the best part of it. And so the energy goes into your body, and then eventually it has to recycle. You have to recycle it because you can't. If you put energy in your body and nothing goes out, what happens? You're going to blow up, right?
Right.
So the energy has to come in, has to go through all the things, and it has to come out. It goes out to sometimes to the third eye, sometimes to your crown chakra, lots of different ways. So sometimes it's just blocked. It doesn't pass a certain point. See, that's where you get energy blockage. You get all kinds of other problems, right? You know that.
Right.
Right. So
I've never heard 108 chakras. This is it, but 108 is a sacred number. And we did
I wonder
actually
why.
touch on that last show. So yes,
I was with I forgot his name now. He recently died too. He was a poet singer out of New Mexico. And one of the things he did acupuncture. And so when he would do acupuncture, he would I would watch, and I could tell when he stuck the needle in, the light would travel up to a certain point and then stop, and I would say, you have a blockage there. And the guy would figure out to work out, clean the blockage. And so I learned that by looking, because remember, I can see sound. And I can hear the color. And then when you look at your body's aura, you'll see all these little energy centers. And there are 108 of them. They're the major ones that we are familiar with, the 7 ones and the 8th one, the crown chakra on top. But there are 108 little smaller ones all over the place, all over your body, right? You see, right? And they all have particular specific things that they do for your evolution. You have evolved. You need this energy. Because it's really all about eating energy. And that's one of the things that trace minerals do, is help you with the frequency of the energy. See, a tree, when I see a tree, I see a giant antenna. It's grounded in what do you think we say we're grounded, right? When we're grounded, we're an antenna. We receive the cosmic energy. We're not grounded, it ain't going anywhere, right?
Got it. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm going to take us back a little bit into the gardening world and to talk a bit about healthy soil and making compost and all that. I was looking through your website, and you've got, those of you who are listening can just imagine what Andy's website is like. There's the Eco Cat. He's very cute. That's a very creative way to get the information. That? I thought it was great. He said,
I get emails from kids all the time.
I love it. You just make it so fun, and so there's so much great things. And on your TV show, you have I mean, just watching some of these things, I've already learned more than I knew. And as I say, I was married to a master gardener. So
Cool.
it's really quite an interesting exploration.
I do the website myself. It's just an exploration in my consciousness. The section says I am not a gardener, but.
Yes, well, what I came across on your website was one of your videos. I actually posted it on with some of the promo for the week, just to give people an introduction to you. And it was
What video was that?
One of your things on making fertilizer, and using the dust and all of that. It was just very interesting, and I liked how you presented it. It was great. So I want to touch a little bit today on making healthy soil and how to make compost. I know people use a variety of things, and I wanted to hear your take on it. Like coffee. Is coffee a good thing for compost?
Well, coffee, as long as it's organic. But, I tell people, the customer already got the chemicals, so this coffee is probably fine. The problem with coffee is one of the most sprayed next to cotton, so pesticides, all kinds of stuff in the coffee. If it's not organic, you're going to get more of that than you actually get the coffee. When people say you're drinking too much coffee, and doctors, you're going to get sick, they're getting sick. It's like tobacco. There's 70 or 80 different pesticides in tobacco. The tobacco itself is not what kills you. It's the chemicals that kills you, that causes the cancer and all that stuff. But we're not supposed to know that these chemicals are what causes cancer. So we'll blame it on the tobacco. But no, yeah.
Well, yeah, because I know the Native Americans always used tobacco for ceremony and for sacred ceremony. It was for
centuries, thousands of years, 10,000 years, 20,000 years, and the word cancer was not unknown until we came around. But listen, it's really sad because people don't know how to make compost. There's a reason. There's a reason why we make compost. There's a real reason, and there's alternate fact reason. We think we make compost because we're going to recycle, right? We're going to take kitchen waste, everything, recycle it, right?
Right.
But that's not why we make compost. We make compost because we're trying to imitate Mother Nature. We're trying to help her heal. It's like, remember the skin, the topsoil is her skin. So if something's wrong, you want to put some ointment on it, something that's good for the skin. Well, that's compost. And compost should be exactly the way Mother Nature makes it. You get animal manure, and animal eats it, animal crushes it up. The plant has gone through a lot of stuff, and inside the stomach you have the animal microbacteria eats it up. In the soil, everything gets eaten up by bacteria over and over again. By the time we get it, we're going to have the mineral. So if you don't put it in the compost, it ain't going to do anything to put it into the soil. See, if people don't know the difference between something rotting and something's composting, okay, I tell you, people, do you know the difference?
What is the difference? Yes, that's a really important thing to let people know.
Right. So one lady calls me up, she says, I got rats and animals. Well, you're rotting because rats and animals don't come around when there's composting, for starters. Another friend of mine says, I can't make compost because I got a lot of ants.
Hey, guys, there's a question from chat here. Okay, Tiki Chris, hello, Tiki Chris, has a vegetarian pig and wants to know if you have any advice on how to make fertilizer using his droppings for their lawn and flower beds.
That's great. A vegetarian pig is wonderful. So all you have to do is make sure that what's the name of the pig?
Yeah, what's the pig's name, Tiki? Oh, it's probably going to be a lag.
Okay,
here.
But you want to make sure that the pig gets the minerals. Otherwise, how is she or he going to get it, right? And if the pig going to get sick, the mineral deficient pig, manure is going to be mineral deficient. Simple as that. But one of the things you can do to the manure, other than to try to feed the pig the best food you can, is that when you get the pig manure, you should add rock dust to it. Rock dust is a source of minerals. There are different types of rock dust. They're different rich in different minerals. So I buy different rock dust, blend them together. Over here we have acimite from Colorado. We have agrumint from Southern California, colloidal rock, lots of them, and they all have different amounts of trace minerals. And as you blend them together, you get a blend of these trace minerals. And then the manure, because that's how it's done in nature. The animal manure and the bacteria in the animal manure is meant to break up these trace minerals. You see? And you put the two together, and then when you put that in the soil, you actually tell them, Mycelium, here, Your Majesty, eat this. And not only when it eats it up, it makes it available to all the other plants and so forth. So you want to add the rock dust. Find a source of rock dust. I sell a blend. People say, I want your blend. Because when I do the rock dust, I also add mycorrhiza in a powder form. A bunch of other microbes are suspended. I make a product called Super Seaweed. I started in 6th grade, basically microbiological activator. But you want to add the stuff. And nowadays, because people are growing pot like crazy. And guess what they're growing? The best stuff on the market, which is this stuff. The best way to grow anything, right? So you want to buy the mycelium. They sell mycelium and lots of microbes now on the market. You just type microbe for my plants. You see tons of stuff show up on eBay. You just put it together, add it to your manure, let it compost a little bit together, and then when this is ready, the last thing you want to do is add raw stuff. It's not ready. So I'm assuming you know how to make your compost out of the pig manure. Once it's ready, it will be very, very good. You just also have to keep a track on the pH, because manure tends to have a very high pH, and you want a pH. See, the mycelium lives in a certain pH range. That's another thing I learned. Because a long time ago, I read from the scientist that minerals are not available in this pH and that pH. Well, what he meant was the bacteria are not in those pH, right? They're only in a certain pH, which is 6.2 to 6.8. So if you test the manure, the pH of the manure, I'm assuming you know what pH is, but basically it has a lot to do with acid. A neutral pH means it's not acid or alkaline. A pH going up in 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 8 becomes more and more alkaline and acid the other way around, see? And so we learn about pH because we want to keep it within a certain range. And that's what you want.
The pig's name is Ozzy Osbourne, and quick question, using organic peroxide for dechlorinating water, good or bad?
Organic peroxide, you mean hydrogen peroxide?
Hydrogen peroxide, yeah.
Okay, right. So they're just like diatomaceous earths. There's food grade and it's bad grade and there's really bad stuff. So yeah, so the hydrogen peroxide out there, you don't want to buy the 3% because it's mostly toxins. You want to get food grade hydrogen peroxide. You have to be real careful with that stuff because I have experimented with it. 1 drop, which just burn your pants up. I mean, you go through your skin decides to fall off. You go, oh boy, I guess that's too strong. So that's the food grade stuff. You see, So you can buy. So when you buy, actually, hydrogen peroxide is actually very good for you to take. That's why they have it food grade. You put 1 drop in a gallon of water, then you take a cup of that, you make a gallon of that, and you drink from there. You see, you dilute it a couple of times, but so you want to use that. You just have to really read up and learn how much to properly use, because you add too much, you'll kill everything. You want to do it like homeopathic, really, really teeny tiny amounts. And then you want to incorporate, ideally, I'm assuming you have a pond, because in Florida I used to do natural ponds where fishes used to swim in it. And you use infrared to also kill the bacteria. So you can buy infrared lights that go in the water.
Ultraviolet.
Ultraviolet, you're right, excuse me, ultraviolet. That will do it. It goes in the water, water flows over, kills the bacteria on contact. Hope that helps.
Great. All right. Cool.
I love questions. Oh, by the way, before I forget, anybody who sends a question like this lady, goes to my website, say, hi, I sent you a question, I'll make you a free lifetime member, you'll get a copy of my book. As a matter of fact, anybody that mentions this show, or even just mention Stephen or Truth Cat Radio. Just email me and I'll make you a lifetime member. You'll get a free copy of my book. And I want to support you guys. I really love what you're doing, and you're right up my alley.
That's right.
I'm just going to say this, Andy. The psilocybin and the DMT is pretty much the same thing, but the LSD, that's another whole other thing.
That's another story, yeah.
That's a whole other story. Yeah.
I actually started, when I was young, remember they used to send me to Cuba or Puerto Rico. So when I was there, I would be tripping on whatever other people were tripping on, and I don't think there was, I don't know what it was, but they would give you something. I would run to the kids, hey, what are you doing? I'm doing this stuff, se llama esto, oh, good, let me do that. So it was mushrooms. I was doing mushrooms at an early age, that's 7. I would come back after the summertime, Mom, hey, what's happening, Dad? It's like, holy cow, what are you doing, kid? And then I didn't do LSD until 1970, yeah. I received so much
Sandoz.
Yeah.
Eric Burden. You know that song, Shima?
Yeah.
Eric Burden's Sandoz?
Yes.
Listen to that song. I had no idea what it was until I finally saw the bottle that said Sandoz.
Yeah.
Well, we knew him.
Did you?
We knew the Sandoz family, yes. Both Andy and myself. Anyway, from the old days, but more of meditation. We knew him when he kind of like shifted into meditation from that era. Anyway, let's get back.
Very cool too. You know, meditation is a way of connecting with a higher consciousness. And guess what? You know, so many different higher consciousnesses, but guess what? A higher consciousness you're actually connecting to. That's the mycelium. The mycelium has a very expansive consciousness. Once you tune into mycelium, you're actually tuning into what the mycelium is tuning into, which is the whole friggin' universe.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
okay.
Wow. Okay, we're going to know what I love it all. It's all so good. That's why it's metaphysics and more, but because we have to kind of, we want to be able to tune into all of it. But let's get back to the soil just for a little bit, and talk about mulch versus composting and what the difference is and why you need both of them and all of that.
If you put compost down on the soil, the sun will kill it. So you have mulch, it goes on top of it that protects it. Simple as that.
Okay.
And so the mulch should be something that protects it from the sun so that the compost does not deteriorate or the soil underneath. Over here in Malibu, for example, we were going through this drought, and everybody was watering a lot, but they didn't do any of the basic stuff to the soil. The places I take care of, Rock Dust compost and mulch on a regular basis. That place is so thick, full of worms, and the mulch, I use a azelaic gardenia mix, which is the acid mulch. Over here we have alkaline soil, so you want to have a acid mulch. If you have acid soil, you want to have alkaline soil. See, it helps to neutralize, to bring down to that level you want. And so the mulch protects it from the sun. But the mulch should also be able to break apart and provide humus. So if you have wood chips and stuff like that, that's mulch, but then not the, that can go on top. That's decorative. It'll sit there forever. Maybe the fireman says it starts a fire. You have a fire, your wood chip mulch will burn, right?
Oh, really?
Exactly, but your regular mulch won't burn because mulch is decomposing, breaking down. The mycelium and the microbes get into the mulch, break it down. After a while, eats it, and you have to apply it again because it disappears. So the mulch is what protects the compost from the soil. You put compost down on the soil, the sun will get to it. The sun will kill any bacteria, any microbe, anything it comes in contact with.
Interesting. And the microbes and mycelium, those are two. The microbes feed the mycelium.
Right. Microbes is just a term for everything tiny in there, living in there. So the mycelium is right. Mycelium is actually a fungi.
Okay. Okay.
We got a caller.
Well, guys, we have a caller, but I think he just wants to listen and be a wallflower.
Okay, guys. So this is where I have to cut it off. This was a 2-hour-long interview, and so I have to stop now, and then get ready to do my Cosmic Spaceship show coming up in a few minutes. So I'm hoping you know how to get there. It's either this station instead of Visceral Gardener, say bbsradio.com/Cosmic Spaceship. That's how you can get to it. Okay? Or you can get to it from my website too. If you go to invisiblegardener.com radio show, you click on the radio show, you see Cosmic Spaceship, takes you there. So I'm going to have to go now so I have to hang up and then come back again and set up for a different station. I just can't switch over. So see you all later now. Take care. Bye.